How to radiate confidence without saying a word. The Stoic way. The truth about masculine energy. That's what comprehensive guidance is designed for. It contains the powerful truths every man needs to understand to finally reclaim his authority in relationships and in life. Once it's yours forever. You'll have lifetime access to truths that most men will never hear until it's too late. If this message resonates with you, comment Untouchable Aura. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Do You Understand, Buddy? So more men don't waste their best years chasing lies. And, claim what's rightfully yours before the world hands you another lesson you didn't deserve. Nobody tells you. You've been conditioned to think that constant agreement wins respect, that exposing your vulnerabilities guarantees connection, that pouring everything into someone will finally make them recognize your value. But here's reality. The more you sacrifice without establishing boundaries, the less impact you create. A woman isn't captivated by someone who surrenders his entire world to her. She's drawn to the man who maintains his completeness independently. This is honestly the essence of genuine presence. Presence isn't defined by physical appearance or material possessions. It's the quiet authority that precedes your physical entrance. It manifests in your movement, your communication, your breathing patterns, your reactions. It's that unshakable, grounded energy that declares, I guide my own path. I honor my own standards. I construct rather than pursue. This content will reveal precisely how to cultivate that magnetic energy from the ground up. If you're exhausted from following guidelines that leave you depleted, if you're finished being emotionally exploited and subtly undermined, if you're prepared to evolve into someone women pursue, men respect, and the world acknowledges, then continue watching. Drop powerful aura in the comments if you're ready to stop surrendering your authority and begin transforming your existence. Principle 1. Command your presence. You don't require verbal expression to communicate your identity to the world. The universe responds to energy long before it processes your words. The harsh reality? Most men move through life like phantoms, invisible, shoulders collapsed, gaze lowered, movements anxious. Every gesture communicates. I hope nobody notices me. Then they question why respect eludes them. You experience it constantly in public spaces. That suffocating silence when nobody acknowledges your existence. That moment when you attempt to contribute and your voice vanishes, or even worse, others speak over you as if you're transparent. You start thinking, perhaps I'm not significant enough. But here's the truth. You remain unseen because you haven't claimed your territory yet. Men who own their presence move as if gravitational forces bend to accommodate them. They enter spaces and people pause, not due to celebrity or wealth, but because their physical language screams, "This is my domain." What makes this even more compelling? Women detect presence faster than any other quality. In a space filled with boisterous voices and performative egos, she identifies the man who remains silent because his energy resonates louder than everyone combined. This kind of energy isn't cultivated in comfort zones, it's forged through deliberate discomfort. If you're constantly apologizing through your body language, rushed movements, shifting eyes, restless hands, uncertain tone, you're programming people to treat you as irrelevant. Correct this immediately. Stand tall, as if your spine carries a sacred mission. Move as though you have no urgency, because everything you desire is already gravitating toward you. And don't merely practice posture in mirrors, live it while queuing, while seated, while entering meetings. Reclaim space. Expand your presence. Your physical form instructs the world on how to treat you. Train it like a precision instrument, not a plea for acceptance. Presence isn't volume, it's grounding. Have you witnessed a man so still, so composed, his calm makes others uncomfortable? That's dominance, that's authority. While others chase noise to validate their existence, he requires nothing. His stillness commands reverence. You want that caliber of presence? Exit your mental loops. Enter your breath. Stop obsessing over their thoughts. Start embodying what you represent. When you speak, decelerate, lower your register. Insert pauses mid-sentence. Allow your words to penetrate, not rush past. Speak as if your voice deserves audience. Because if you don't believe it, nobody will. You've been conditioned to be pleasant, to avoid intimidation, to constantly justify yourself, and it's rendered you invisible. Presence isn't earned through compliance. It's constructed by refusing to diminish yourself. Every needless apology, every anxious laugh at something unfunny, every moment you compress yourself so others feel comfortable, you strip away your magnetic field. Continue that pattern and you'll be forgotten. The encouraging news: presence builds daily. During discomfort, remain centered. When questioned, resist hasty explanations. When ignored, don't intensify efforts. Simply amplify your value. Because the man who truly understands his worth never pleads for recognition. The world cannot help but observe. If you're serious about becoming the man whose presence rewrites how reality treats him, not just with women, but in every space he occupies, you need comprehensive guidance. This isn't surface-level advice. It's a complete framework, a permanent resource you will possess for life. One you can revisit whenever you feel lost, disrespected, or betrayed. Every section dismantles the fundamental truths they deliberately withheld from you. How to lead with composed dominance, how to stop seeking and start magnetizing, how to defend your peace and reconstruct your power. You'll never second-guess again. Principle 2. Live with uncompromising purpose. If you wake each morning checking who messaged you back, who engaged with your content, who's distributing attention, you've already surrendered. You're not living, you're reacting. This explains why your existence feels vacant. Purpose isn't decorative philosophy. It's not vision boards or motivational quotes. It's essential architecture. Most men today are directionless, not from weakness, but because nobody informed them they're permitted to prioritize themselves. Society programmed you to chase validation, to worship women, to believe your value is measured by how much you serve others while neglecting your own calling. But here's the unfiltered truth. Nobody respects a man whose entire existence revolves around anything besides his mission. She won't admire you if you orbit her. She won't desire you if you're perpetually available. Because if your entire universe is her, you're not a man with direction. You're a man in subordination. Women test this. Daily, consciously or unconsciously, they test whether you'll abandon your trajectory for them, whether you'll compromise your standards just to maintain their presence. The instant you do, interest evaporates, not from cruelty, but because nature respects strength. A directionless man becomes dependent. He becomes emotionally reactive. He becomes confused, constantly seeking signals, feedback, validation. Every text becomes warfare. Every silence becomes agony. Eventually, he becomes hollow, waiting for external validation to confirm his worth. If that's your current state, wake up. Your purpose is non-negotiable. It's the singular element that makes you formidable. Build it, define it, document it. What legacy do you want your life to establish? What impact do you intend to create? What mastery will you pursue even when nobody applauds? Once you know, structure your days around it. Wake with non-negotiables. Train your body not for social validation, but for discipline. Work your craft not for recognition, but for excellence. Study not to impress, but to sharpen your edge. Because when you operate with purpose, you become scarce, and scarcity attracts. She'll detect it in your eyes, in how you distance yourself from drama, in how you choose solitude over shallow connections, in how you decline distractions and embrace discipline. Have you observed a man so focused he doesn't register the noise around him? That's what makes women lean forward. That's what makes people follow. Because the world starves for genuine leaders. A man with ruthless purpose doesn't chase. He magnetizes. He doesn't react. He architects. If you want to become that man, it begins now. Stop existing for external approval. Start building for your legacy. Document your objective. Deconstruct it. Execute daily. When someone attempts to derail you, smile and respond. I have somewhere more important to be. Because the truth, she's not the prize. Your mission is. When you live accordingly, everything, respect, attention, women, follows. Not because you begged, but because you constructed something greater than all of it. Principle 3. Remain calm within chaos. Chaos surrounds you constantly. You encounter it in relationships, career, thoughts, notifications. The world never decelerates. But the question isn't the volume. It's whether you allow that turbulence to shake your foundation. Most men are emotionally fragile because they were never taught the power of internal stillness. They were instructed to react, to please, to apologize, to constantly pursue harmony, even at the cost of their dignity. So every test from a woman, every mood fluctuation, every delay, every ignored message becomes a storm they attempt to calm by bending, explaining, chasing. They try fixing her attitude instead of mastering their own energy. With every act of emotional dependency, they lose respect, because in her mind, she's not trying to break you. She's testing whether anything can. The truth, women don't trust a man who flinches. They may not vocalize it, but they sense it. She raises her voice, and you scramble to pacify. She ignores your message, and you double text. She withdraws, and you panic. Every time you move from fear, from anxiety, from insecurity, you signal that you're not in control. If you can't control yourself, how can you lead her? Principle 4. Speak less, mean more. Words are, honestly, pretty much worthless when spoken carelessly, but they transform into power when spoken with intention. Most men just don't understand this. They've been trained to over-explain, to seek reassurance, to talk their way into validation. Not realizing, every unnecessary word depletes their value. You witness it in conversations where men stumble over themselves trying to impress. You hear it in lengthy pleading texts. You feel it when a man speaks without conviction, just fill a noise, hoping something resonates. Women see through it instantly. She hears desperation in your tone before she ever hears confidence in your message. Because value is never loud. It's measured in restraint. High-value men speak with weight. They don't rush to fill silence. They don't babble when nervous. They don't seek approval through words. They command it through presence. You want to be taken seriously? Well, speak as if you respect your own voice. Have you ever sat in a space where a man barely spoke, but when he did, everyone listened? That's not luck, you know. That's control. That's understanding your voice is a tool, not a trap. Every time you overuse it, you dilute it. Take a moment and examine your interactions. Do you feel compelled to constantly explain yourself? Do you speak rapidly to avoid awkward pauses? Or maybe you nervously laugh after making a point? All of that signals one thing: insecurity. And honestly, insecurity destroys attraction faster than anything. When you speak less and mean more, everything transforms. Suddenly, your words carry gravity. Your opinions matter. Your silence becomes powerful. She starts leaning in. People start paying attention because silence makes people uncomfortable, but only if you're uncomfortable with it. When you master silence, you make people chase your approval instead of chasing theirs. That dynamic flips everything. You stop being the performer. You become the standard. How do you do it? First, slow down your speech. Breathe between thoughts. Pause mid-sentence. Let your words penetrate. Second, eliminate filler. Don't soften statements with "I think" or "maybe." Speak directly. Own your stance. Third, listen more than you speak. Not to respond, but to understand. People reveal everything when you stop trying to be heard and start observing. Most importantly, just stop explaining your worth. Prove it through action. When someone questions your decisions, let results speak. When someone doubts you, let progress speak. When she pulls away, don't chase. Let your energy remind her of what she just lost. The man who speaks less often hears more. In that silence, he finds clarity, power, and presence. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be respected by the right ones. Respect starts when you stop bleeding value through words and start asserting it through presence. You don't need approval. You don't need validation. What you really need is to master your energy, your tone, and your message. When you do, the world listens. Not because you shout, but because, honestly, when you speak, it matters. Principle 5. Build magnetic self-respect. No woman will ever respect you more than you respect yourself. The bitter reality is, most men today are completely disconnected from what that even means. You think being agreeable equals self-respect. You think being understanding, constantly compromising, and placing her on a pedestal earns love. But what it actually does is lower your value because you're demonstrating that you put her above your own boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep love out. They're gates that teach others how to treat you. When those gates are always open, when your standards are always negotiable, when your time is always available, your value dies. You've been trained to think being the nice guy is the path to connection. You give, you sacrifice, you adjust. Still, you're left wondering why you're ghosted, betrayed, or just tolerated. It's because niceness isn't respected. Consistency, discipline, and unshakable standards are. Respect isn't requested. It's commanded through behavior. Take a moment to examine your life right now. Are you really living by your own standards? Or have you been molding yourself into something more palatable just to, fit into someone else's existence? Self-respect isn't just about declining others, it's about affirming your higher self. That means not settling for disrespect, not chasing lukewarm attention, and not engaging with someone who, honestly, constantly tests you without ever appreciating you. You can feel it when you've compromised too far. That gut-wrenching guilt after agreeing to something you knew you really shouldn't have. That tightness in your chest when you pretend it doesn't bother you. And that mental exhaustion from, trying to keep her interested instead of focusing on your own mission. All of it, that's the cost of abandoning yourself. The most dangerous part is, the more you do it, the more normal it feels. You kinda stop noticing how drained you are. You stop noticing that your standards have eroded. Eventually, you even forget what real self-respect looks like. You start calling weakness empathy, and cowardice emotional intelligence, and indecision open-mindedness. But honestly, deep down, your soul knows you've traded power for proximity. The way out is brutal, but it's necessary. You have to become the man who walks away without flinching. When you feel disrespected, you don't complain. You just disappear. When you feel devalued, you don't argue. You cut off access. And when you feel the urge to explain yourself, you remind yourself that kings don't explain their crown to peasants. So, you want to build magnetic self-respect? Well, start by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you say you'll do something, make sure you actually do it. And every time you feel that little voice inside, say, don't respond to her text, listen to it. Every time your gut tells you this woman is draining your peace, act on it. Not tomorrow, today. Your self-respect is built in the micro moments when nobody's watching. When you go to the gym because you committed. When you work on your craft even when no one supports you. When you walk away from situations that tempt your ego but destroy your soul. When you make this your way of life, when you hold yourself to a code, you become rare, unshakable, respected. And that's when everything changes. People treat you differently. Women feel your energy shift. They stop testing. They start chasing. Not because you manipulated them, but because you finally stopped betraying yourself. That's what every high-value man understands. Self-respect is not optional. It is the foundation of power. Without it, you are just noise in a world of static. But with it, your presence becomes undeniable. Your aura becomes magnetic. And your life becomes yours again. There is no trait more dangerous to your peace than emotional dependency. Yet it is the most common plague destroying modern men. You don't realize how attached you are until she pulls away. You don't realize how desperate you've become until she delays her response and you feel your heart sink. You think you're being in love when in reality you're being emotionally hijacked. Because when your emotional state depends on how she treats you, what she says, or how much attention she gives you, you've already handed her the power. Once you give her that power, you've lost the game. Women don't respect a man they control emotionally. They test you not because they're evil, but because they want to see if you're strong enough to handle the highs and lows without flinching. Most of you fail that test every single day. She's cold one day and you spiral. She ignores a message and you double text. She flirts with another guy and you start questioning your worth. Every time you act out of fear, you shrink in her eyes. You become the man who cannot lead, cannot protect, cannot remain stable. When that happens, attraction dies. You want to be respected. Learn detachment. Learn how to want her without needing her. Learn how to feel attraction without chasing validation. Learn how to enjoy her presence without fearing her absence. The way you do that isn't by pretending not to care. It's by building a life that fulfills you so completely her behavior doesn't rattle your center. Get serious about your mission. Get lost in your craft. Fill your schedule with goals, challenges, and pursuits that ignite you. Because when your day is already full of meaningful work, you don't sit around waiting for her reply. You barely notice the delay. That energy shift is everything. She senses when you're available emotionally. She knows when your mood depends on her. And you know she can't help but test it. But when she sees that your energy doesn't change, that you remain calm, grounded, focused, she is drawn to it. She leans in, she adjusts. Because detachment doesn't mean apathy, it means control. You care, but you are not ruled by your caring. You want her, but you do not need her. You enjoy her, but your life is full with or without her. That kind of energy is addictive. Practice this every day. When she doesn't text back, don't react. When she throws emotional bait, don't bite. When you feel triggered, sit with the emotion, breathe through it, and watch it fade. Build a mental fortress so solid that no external behavior can shake it. That's not indifference, that's power, and that's what makes you dangerous. Most men are emotionally reactive, slaves to their feelings, victims of their need for approval. But you're not like them anymore. You are training your spirit to stand alone, your emotions to obey you, your focus to remain locked in. You are becoming the man who isn't cold, but unshakable. Not distant, but free. When you master this detachment, you don't just win with women. You win in life. You make better decisions. You lose less sleep. You choose who stays and who leaves. Because honestly, no one has access to your peace without earning it. That is emotional wealth. That is control. And that is what every man must build if he wants to live with dignity, power, and peace in a world designed to pull him off course. Principle 9. Build social proof silently. You don't need to announce your value. You don't need to scream your achievements or plaster your wins across every social platform. In fact, the men who do that the most are often the ones with the least real power. Because true value, real undeniable value, moves in silence. Social proof isn't about how many people clap when you speak. It's about who watches when you move without saying a word. You see, most men try to fake this. They rent cars, pose next to other people's money, name-drop folks they barely know, and flash fake confidence in empty places just to appear important. Yet, every time they do it, they broadcast one thing: insecurity. But you, my friend, you don't chase status. No, you build it quietly, consistently, brick by brick, because you know social proof isn't built through performance. It's built through presence. And you start creating it the moment you stop seeking it. When you walk into a room and speak to no one but everyone watches, that's social proof. When others speak of your name with respect while you say nothing, that's influence. And when people start adjusting their behavior just because you showed up, that's the aura you've been chasing. Here's how it's built. By becoming undeniable in your domain. By being so competent, so aligned, so precise in what you do and how you do it, that others begin to follow without being asked. Focus on your network. Surround yourself with other driven men who hold themselves to a standard. Not because you're trying to climb their ladder, but because your presence among kings says more about you than any speech ever could. You are the average of the 5 men you surround yourself with. If you walk with weak, aimless men who whine and settle, you absorb their frequency. But if you walk beside leaders, builders, focused minds, that aura becomes yours. You don't need to show off. You don't need to post. Your life becomes your statement. Your daily routine becomes your brand. Your body, your voice, your posture, your ability to walk away without words. These are the things women and the world feel before you ever mention your resume. If you're in a place where no one respects you right now, stop blaming the world. Stop blaming women. Start building. Work in silence. Disappear for a season. Emerge with results so loud you never need to explain again. Let your name be spoken in rooms you've never stepped in. Let your work speak before your mouth ever does. Let your vibe enter before your voice. Know this: every single interaction, every reputation you leave behind, every presence you carry into a room, they compound. Social proof is not a popularity contest. It's actually the quiet consensus that you are someone who moves with weight. Women, you know, they feel this before they even know your name. People sense it before they know your story. When you live like this long enough, you become a force. Not a performer, not a beggar, not someone explaining why he deserves respect, but a man who simply is. That's power. That's proof. And honestly, you never have to say a word to show it. Principle 10. Radiate controlled desire. There's nothing more attractive to a woman than a man who desires her without needing her. A man who can look her in the eyes and express his interest with clarity but not attachment. A man who can say, "I want you," and walk away the next second if her energy doesn't match. That kind of power is so rare, so intoxicating, so unsettling. It makes women obsessed. Yet most men operate at the opposite end of the spectrum. They suppress their desire to avoid rejection. They pretend not to care, even though they're burning inside. Or worse, they overexpress it with desperation, texting too fast, complimenting too much, chasing too hard. In both cases, they lose. Because you see, what she's drawn to is not a man who hides his desire, nor a man who's controlled by it, but rather a man who owns it with discipline. Controlled desire? Well, it's when your interest is pure, yet your standards remain non-negotiable. It's when your attraction is visible, but your self-respect is stronger. You see her beauty, sure, but you're not hypnotized. You feel the pull, yet you don't follow blindly. You show appreciation, but never ever lose your center. That's magnetic. That's rare. And that's what quite frankly, separates men who are merely options from men who become obsessions. When you're in her presence, you don't overtalk, you don't overvalidate, you don't act unsure. You simply look at her like a man who has seen beauty before, who's not shaken by it, who appreciates it, but doesn't beg for it. That level of detachment drives women crazy because it puts her in a position where she starts performing. She leans in. She invests. She thinks about you because your energy lingers, not from pressure, but from poise. This isn't about tactics. This is about identity. You become this man by refusing to betray yourself for affection, by being willing to walk away even from the woman you want the most if her presence starts costing you peace. That's real strength, and it translates, When you speak to her, you're grounded. When you touch her, it's intentional. When you show interest, it's authentic but brief. You give enough to ignite her imagination, but never enough to kill the mystery. Controlled desire is not passive. It's precise. It says, I know what I want. I want you. But if you play games, I'll disappear without a word. When you live by this code, something shifts. You stop chasing, you start choosing, you stop hoping for chemistry, you start demanding compatibility, you stop texting paragraphs, you start sending energy. That shift, that energy, becomes unforgettable. Women don't forget the man who leaves space for them to pursue. They don't forget the man who doesn't flinch. They don't forget the man who makes them feel seen, not because he needed to, but because he stood still while she came closer. That's the man who lives rent-free in her mind, not because he tried harder, but because he didn't have to. You become that man not by pretending to care less, but by building a life that makes you care more about yourself. Once that happens, desire becomes a weapon you hold, not a leash she pulls. Most men will keep suffering in silence. They'll keep overgiving, keep explaining, keep getting ghosted, disrespected, and replaced because no one ever told them the truth. By the time they learn it, it's too late. But you're not most men. You're still here. You feel this in your chest. You know you've been living below your value. And now you have a choice. Keep living like you are. Or take the first step into the version of yourself she can't control, the world can't ignore, and no one dares to disrespect.